Let's spend a few minutes shining the spotlight on an amazing talent that you already have, the talent for insight. And how do I know you've got this talent? Well, we all do. It's a human ability. And yet it's one we don't always fully appreciate. So to set the scene, let's ask the question, how is it that we come to understand the world we live in? Well, perhaps the most obvious way is by using our intellect. And this is encouraged from the very first days we go to school. We learn information and we learn how to relate concepts and analyse, and we study, we put effort in, we use our willpower to marshal the concepts and the data and come to some kind of understanding. And in the process, we also draw on what other people have discovered in the past. And in fact, you can look back over the millennia and see that human beings have been always doing this. And many of the achievements that we enjoy now show that process in action. So, for example, we could learn about Archimedes' principle. Now, you remember Archimedes, he's the guy that discovered the science behind buoyancy in water. And he's reputed to have leapt out of his bath shouting Eureka when he saw how it all worked. So we could learn about that principle, we could learn the equation, and we could even recall it in an examination. Now, I know you're all very familiar with this, so it's something that carries on in the workplace and beyond. You know, we are encouraged and rewarded to use our intellect. And that's a very fine thing. It can achieve a lot, but it can't achieve everything. So this is where we turn to the other way that we understand the world. Now, if we go back again into childhood, in those early days we were going to school, this other approach or way of learning was also in action. And this is where we see for ourselves something that is true about the world. Something becomes real to us on an individual level. It's not something we take on anyone else's authority because we see it for ourselves. And it's something that the intellect can't access. So, for example, if you think about the experiences we have of things like love and beauty and gratitude and peace, these experiences don't come through study and academic work and willpower. They come through insight, or we could call it realization, because these things become real to us on an individual level. Now, we talked about Archimedes' principle earlier on. We can have an intellectual understanding of that. But if we actually visit a swimming pool, or perhaps in the sea, and we experience the buoyancy of water ourselves on our own bodies, then it becomes real to us in a very different way than the concept had in the academic viewpoint or perspective. So an insight or realization is something that comes to us, and sometimes, like Archimedes, it's like a flash of inspiration, a eureka moment. Sometimes it's something that is more of a gentle dawning, and we come to realize something is true, that's always been true, but we can't actually put our finger on exactly the minute that it came into our minds. It just is there. And of course, this is the very common experience that we have when we have a bright idea out of the blue, or we have what sometimes is called a shower moment, where we get the solution to a problem that we've been wrestling with our intellect, when we're doing something completely different, like having a shower, and we're not using our intellect. And that's a clue, because an insight often comes to us when there's a little bit of mental space. It doesn't have to be a long mental space. It doesn't mean to say that we have to be sitting meditating for an hour in a lotus position, although we might. It can just be a little chink of mental space. A metaphor that I find helpful is if you have an orchestra playing full bore, all the instruments are being used. The sound is loud and impressive, and yet you probably wouldn't be able to hear the flute very well. But if all the other instruments stop, then the flute is extremely clear. So it's a bit like that, where the mental space is a moment when the noise stops, when we're not driving our intellect, trying to puzzle through, analyse, deduce, use our logic, but we actually have a momentary break from that. And that is most likely when we'll be able to hear or realise an insight. And an insight can be transformative. It can actually be worth a huge amount of experience, sometimes even all the experiences added up together that we've had previously. And that is something that is there, you have it. And it's good to be reminded of that. And in fact, by reminding you, I'm reminding myself. So that power is there. So when and if you're struggling with some kind of issue, problem, challenge, and you just can't see a way through it, your intellect just, is snowed under, then know that insight is always available. And what I find is that by giving up on the mental effort on the intellect, I'm guaranteed to have an insight, something that occurs to me that I haven't seen before, that is extremely helpful and useful and very welcome. Thank you for watching.